Hi guys, Greg here from FretDojo.com and welcome to the first in this series of live sessions for FretDojo. It's great to see so many of you on the call coming in today. I wanted to get into some more videos lately because I want to really explore some aspects of vocabulary, jazz guitar vocabulary. The thing about vocabulary is it's like a spoken language, right? If you don't have enough words to speak a spoken language, then there's not much that you can say that makes any sense. So in these live sessions, we're going to be looking at some cool lines that have been inspired by some of the great players, but more importantly, we're going to look a deep dive into the nuts and bolts of the approaches that are in these licks and ideas so that you can take away some really key concepts for soloing in your improvisations. So I can see Grayson's on the call. For people that are calling in today, please write on the chat where you're from, and it'd be great to find out who's out there watching right now. And there is a PDF to go along with this today. You will see all the notation on the screen, but just in case you need this for further reference, I'll flash this up on the screen now. FretDojo.com/PDF. Okay, so if you type that in and enter your details there, you'll be able to access the PDF download of this live session, particularly for you guys that are watching the replay. All right, we've got a lot of my online academy members here. I run an online jazz guitar academy, and I can see a lot of guys from the academy. It's great to see you come along to this show, and a few new guys as well. So welcome to you all. All right, so what we might do is get straight into the content now. I'll go to a close-up and we'll... actually first, I think what we should do is have a bit of a listen for the sort of stuff you'll be covering in this session. So let's have a listen to probably my biggest inspiration in jazz guitar, the legendary Joe Pass, and let's check out some soloing techniques that he's doing over stomping at the Savoy. I'll just bring that up now. Okay. Just get it playing. One moment. Alright, how cool was that? For you, those of you that are live, write a comment in the chat as to how you found that solo. This is one of my favourite solos by Joe Pass, and particularly I really like Joe Pass's single line stuff. I know that Joe Pass is well known for his solo guitar approaches, you know what I mean? That's probably what he became most famous for. But what I really like, actually for me personally, is his single line playing. And that's kind of one of the lines that we're going to be looking at today is directly inspired by this recording. Okay, so let's go to a close-up and we'll have a look at one of these lines. I called it the Passy-Doble. Okay, I do like to name lines something memorable. It helps me kind of remember what I know. So sometimes the issue isn't so much knowing, remembering stuff. It's remembering what you actually already know. So if you give things a weird name, sometimes that helps, for me anyway. Okay, so let's get this up on the screen. All right, and cool. Okay, so I'll play this along with a backing track now so you can get a sense of how it sounds. If you've got a guitar handy, maybe play along with me and we can and learn the line on the call. You know, why not grab your guitar now and give this a go with me? So this is just a standard 2-5-1 line, and we'll give this a go. All right, here we go. Okay, so that's the idea of that line. Let's play it slowly together. In particular, look out for the fingering. Sometimes to make things sound a bit more stylistically correct, you do need to carefully look at the fingering for lines like this. And it's not the only way you can finger this, but here's one suggestion. So let's play this together. 3, 4. Okay, once again, 2, 3, and 4, and... Okay, so for you guys that are on the replay, that are watching this, maybe pause the video at this point and try to get this line under your fingers. And but otherwise, for you guys live on the call, let's have a look at this fingering. So this is mainly based around this first chord, this D-7. That's kind of what I'm thinking when I'm playing this line. See how that's actually a couple of the notes out of this stock standard, you know, garden variety D-7. And then it seems like there's a lot of use of finger 1 going up and down there, but what I'm trying to do is really reference that to that chord shape so that it kind of sticks in my mind where the notes are. So referencing lines to chord shapes are very useful. So that's why I'm kind of going like this. So it's a little bit awkward going up and down, but at even at a reasonably fast tempo, that's still pretty doable, especially if you use a slide. See, that's like just going like a slide up like that. Now here's the interesting bit of the line really on this G7 chord that we're going to look in detail in this call a little bit later. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty straightforward there. Now when we get to the C major 7, okay, so with the C major 7, we've got this interesting F sharp note here. And then you've got to jump over with your little finger, like that. Now, it can sound a little bit blocky if you have to jump across strings like this on guitar. Now, the thing about jazz on guitar is you actually have to do this quite a lot, because a lot of the lines that we play are inspired by guys like Charlie Parker, you know, like horn players. And they often do lines in fourths. It's easy to play on their instrument, but maybe not so easy on ours. So what you can do when you play a fourth like this, of course you could use 2 separate fingers like this, but to keep in position and to so you don't get lost on the fretboard, often it's a good idea to roll a finger across like this. So I play with the 4th finger on the A, and then roll across like that to the next note. You got to be careful not to hold them down at the same time though, because if you do that, it'll stop sounding like a line, it'll more sound like a chord. So that's a nice little technique that you can practice with this line. And you actually do it on the 1st finger, on the 3rd beat between the C and the E. Okay? But that's a lot easier with the 1st finger actually. You guys should probably have no trouble with that. And then it finishes off with some nice chromatic notes there. Okay? So I'm taking the time to really get into the fingering because that's often where the sound of jazz is in the way that you play the notes, not so much the notes themselves. Well, at least both are equally important anyway. Okay, so that's getting started with the line. Okay, let's have a look now at a bit of a deeper look in the nuts and bolts of this line. Of course, you can just play this 2-5-1 line over any 2-5-1 progression, right? It'll sound good. The thing is, though, you'll find that, oh yeah, this is cool, but after you do it like 10 times, you'll start to get a bit tired of just playing this line and not doing anything else. It's not creative. And jazz is all about creativity. And so, what we're going to do now is look at really what you get value out of lines is the nuts and bolts, the key concepts in a line that you can then extract, and that is the method for being more creative with this sort of material. Rather than just reciting the lines, we're going to be inspired by the concepts within them. Okay, so to do that though, we need to do a little bit of analysis. So let's see if this works now. I'm going to go to something where I can write on the screen. Just got to do a bit of jiggery pokery here. Here we go. It worked. Awesome. Okay, so the Passy-Doble lick, a major 2-5-1 lick. We can see that that we have a D-7, G7, C major 7. The most well-known chord progression in jazz and probably the most useful, the major 2-5-1 progression. Let's have a look firstly at what the chromatic movement of the notes in this line. If we look at, say from here, from this G note going down to the F here, we've got this pattern. So the F that we end up on is a chord tone. Okay, so a chord tone of G7. It's the flat 7 of that chord. And so it's like there's a 2-fret chromatic movement towards that note. Now that's not the only place we see that chromatic movement in this line. If we go to the D here that we see going to the C on the C major 7 chord, it's got that same movement. Okay, so that features at that point as well, that 2-fret chromatic movement. We call this a double approach note. Okay, so or double approach notes, plural, I guess, and then we have it again here. So we got B, B flat, then A. Okay, another double approach. So can you see that a lot of this line is comprised of that idea? And it even does it after that to finish the line. So if we kind of start from this A, we've got A flat, then G. Okay, so this is a classic Joe Pass cliche, is incorporating double approach notes in your improvisations. Okay, now this is where you can start to be a bit more creative by being inspired by this line. Okay, so it stops being the sort of thing where it's I've just got to play this line. Maybe what I could do is do what this line is doing. So I'm targeting chord tones in the progression. See how the double approach ends up on the F there. It ends up on the C there, the root note of the C major 7. It ends up on the 6th of the C major 7 there, and on the 5th there. So if I just keep in mind, let's just go down by 2 frets towards a chord tone, and I'm just going to play basic arpeggios and scale notes. That's all I'm going to do apart from doing that. Let's see what that sounds like. And you can also do the reverse. So let's say the first note in this line is an F. I could approach that note by 2 frets ascending. So I could go, and it gives the same sort of effect. Okay, so that might give me a little bit more to work with when I try this. So let's take this 2-5-1 progression again. And this time I'm just going to solo using basic chord tones and approaching them with double approach notes in this chromatic way. And let's see what that sounds like. All right, so first basic chord tones. Now let's try some double approaches. Okay, so that's the first idea that you can take out of this lick straight away. Now what's nice about that is you don't really need to know a lot of material for it to sound like a jazz solo. All you simply need to do is know a few basic arpeggios and chords, and then learn how to approach the notes by 2 frets away. Now if you just do that and then just do basic scales soloing around that, you know, based on whatever modes or scales you might have learned in the past, instantly it can sound more jazzy. So that's a very, very useful technique. Okay, let's go to the second technique that I've found in this line, and this is a particularly tasty one. So let's go to the G7 chord now. Okay, so we've got some interesting arpeggios here. We've got this first descending arpeggio over the G7. So I'll just bracket that so you can see it a bit better. So this is the notes F, D, C, A flat. So on the G7, doesn't that sound great? Okay, this is a very, very useful idea. Let's have a look at what the actual notes are. So, or what arpeggio does this make? We have F, we have D, C, and A flat. Okay, so what is this arpeggio? If we arrange it in thirds, which is how you usually figure out what the name of the chord would be, I could do this. I could maybe call it something like this: a D, F, A flat, and C, which equals a D-7 flat 5 chord arpeggio. D-7 flat 5 arpeggio. So that's really cool. So what's happening here is Joe Pass is seeing the G7, but he's playing a D-7 flat 5. Now this is one of the most important concepts in jazz, which is seeing one chord and playing another. Okay, so if you like see on the lead sheet in jazz, if you see a G7 and you just play a G7 arpeggio, it sounds like you're playing an exercise. Okay, so the way to easily get more tension and interest in the music is by superimposing or substituting other chords or arpeggios on top of the one that would usually be played. Okay, now what this does, if we go back to the analysis here, the A flat gives a flat 9. Okay, let's see if I can write that. I don't know why, it's very lightly colored now. Let's try again. Anyway, you'll just have to bear with me. Okay, so the A flat gives a flat 9. The D is the 5th, the F is the flat 7, and the C is like an 11. Okay, so we have a flat 9 and an 11, some very interesting tensions over this chord. So Now, how can we extract a concept out of this? That sort of sounds all very nice and theoretical. Like, sure, great, we can play a D-7 flat 5 over G7, and it makes these interesting tensions. But you've got to get your hands dirty and actually do it. So we're going to play on the backing track again, and this is something I really want you guys to try at home. And we'll play a 2-5-1 progression, and let's just play, whenever we get to the G7, we'll play a D-7 flat 5 arpeggio. Okay, so the notes D, F, A flat, and C. All right, so I'll give you an example of what that sounds like over the backing track. We'll play that to a standard 2-5-1, but you can do this pretty much over any dominant chord that you see in a chart. Okay? How cool was that? Did you hear the D-7 flat 5? I love that idea. Okay, cool. So sometimes I feel like I have the best job in the world because I just get to work with this music all day, and every day I come out, oh, what an awesome new idea. So this is an excellent one that you can experiment with in the practice room. Okay, is using what essentially it is, the D-7. It's like the 2 chord, right, of a 2-5-1 progression. So D minor is the 2, G7 is the 5, and instead of just a normal D-7, you can think D-7 flat 5. And it just adds a bit more tension on that chord. And so it's taking the 2 of the 2-5-1 progression, making it a 2-7 flat 5, and then playing that over the 5, okay? Which results in a cool tension sound. Okay, all right. I hope you're still with me, guys. It looks like we've got a good audience on the call still. Leave a comment as to how you're finding the session and if you've been inspired by any of these ideas so far. But we do have one more idea to work on from this line, and this is a bit more out there. So let's have a look at our analysis one more time and see what the third idea from this lick that we can extract. Okay, let's have a look. All right, so I've got my pen back, great. All right, I might use a different color now because we've got a lot of notes on this now. Okay, so check out this on the C major 7 chord. Now we have this interesting note. That's an F sharp, but hang on, that doesn't seem to belong to C major 7 at all because C major 7 has the notes C, E, G, and B. What's this F sharp? What's that to do with it? Okay, so this is interesting. So the F sharp is the sharp 11 of that chord. Now, often sharp 11s, if used sparingly, can sound really cool over a 1 major 7 chord. So that's something good for you to know in itself. Is just see if you can apply the F sharp over a C major 7 chord here and there, and you'll find it gives it quite a angular sort of sound. It's quite a harsh sound. Now this is borrowed from the Lydian scale for those of you guys that know modes. Okay, so if you want to get a Lydian sound, you just play a sharp 11 over a 1 major 7 chord. But check out what's at the start of this line here. We can take this a bit further and create some pretty wacky sounds. We've got F sharp, and we've got A as the next chord, and we've got D. Okay, now if I arrange that according to stacking the thirds, we have D, F sharp, A, which equals a D major triad. Okay, so I don't know if Joe Pass was really thinking like this so much. This is more a modern idea, but I'm kind of like superimposing a more modern approach here. So, you know, maybe by coincidence he was just playing a triad here, but let's try that actually. Let's see what happens whenever we get to a 1 major 7 chord. Let's see if we can play a D major triad over it, okay? And let's see what sort of result that has. Once again, this is something that's a bit more of a modern sound, so it's something to taste. You may or may not like this, but at least it's an interesting one to explore to see what possibilities are there for improvisation. So let's go one more time to a close-up and we'll play the backing track and let's see what happens. Here we go. It's very odd, isn't it? Okay, but you probably can't linger on it. You need to resolve it. See, I got off it quickly, but it's a nice little splash effect. See, that sounded cool. Okay, so I do like that idea. It's probably something it's not something I would do like all the time in a more sort of traditional bebop jazz solo, but it's a good idea to experiment with. Sometimes it's you know what it's like when you go to a restaurant and you don't really know what the food tastes like, and you kind of you order something like eel in a Japanese restaurant, and it's like, oh, let's give this a go. And initially you might not like the taste of it, but if you try it a few times, hey, it's like, this is actually pretty good. So that's something that you can experiment with. So we've covered 3 ideas over this line today. Kazi, I just noticed a comment here. There are no wrong notes in jazz. That's right. There are no wrong notes. There are only wrong resolutions. So you can play whatever you like. You've just got to end up to the right note of in the end, and it'll sound cool. Okay. So we might wrap it up shortly. But if you guys do have any questions, please leave it in the chat, and I might be able to do a couple before we wrap up. But if you're interested in working with me further, I do. A lot of guys that are on this call are actually from my online Jazz Guitar Academy already. But if you haven't signed up yet, it might be worth checking it out. It's got my full collection of courses. There's a great structured, progressive, step-by-step process for learning improvisation, learning jazz guitar in the academy. Yeah, there's a lot of cool guys, as you can see on the call here, that you can join in, and people are posting videos and having cool discussions and stuff. So and yeah, it's a great thing to do. So if you're interested in looking at that, you just need to go to my website, FretDojo.com, and remember that if you would like a PDF for this lesson, I'll flash the link up on the screen again, but if you're watching on YouTube, it should be on the description below this video, FretDojo.com/PDF, and that has a good transcription of that lick with a summary of each of the 3 ideas that we covered in today's video. So the double chromatic approach notes, and the what was the next one? Oh yeah, substituting the 2-7 flat 5 over the 5-7, and finally playing a D major triad over C major 7. You can think of that as playing a triad 1 step up or 2 frets up from the tonic chord. Okay, so if we've got no questions, we might leave it there. But please leave a comment, like this video. I'll only keep doing these if you guys like this video and you subscribe to my channel. So this was a bit of an experiment, this first one, but I think it's gone pretty well. We've had a great turnout for this, so I'm very happy to do more of these. If you guys are interested, please let me know what you think. And yeah, it's been great to have you guys all on the call today. So if we do another one, I reckon we'll get into maybe a few more lines like this and extract some concepts, and we'll do that for a couple of weeks, and then we might get into some cool comping patterns and other things that you can do on jazz guitar. So I hope you guys give jazz guitar a go. It's definitely changed my guitar life, getting into jazz guitar. It's been a wonderful journey, and it's been great working with you all. Okay guys, well, we might leave it there. Make sure that you check out my website, www.FretDojo.com, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Fret Dojo Live. Okay, take care guys, and I'll talk to you soon.